In 1999, this guy was arrested. He was facing serious felonies. That didn't stop him. That didn't stop him. You might not like Bill Gates, but whatever he was arrested for didn't stop him.
Yeah.
And everyone can have this. And our society, our culture loves a redemption arc. We love it when people come back. And I want people, I don't care if they're in the middle of their villain arc. I don't care if they're at the bottom. I want them to get that redemption. And I feel like where I am with my job, I can really help people on that path. I can put them on the right path to come back.
Yeah.
So I want to inspire people to do that and say, hey, I'm going to do everything I can. It's on you to do this, and we're going to come out of this. And on a long enough timeline, we're going to get it all dismissed.
Yeah. It's
going to be great. We're going to get through this. You just got to do what I say.
Welcome back to another episode of High Value Discussions. I am your host, Daniel Gonzalez. And in this episode, we are graced with an accomplished attorney. For over a decade, he has been fighting for people of Monterey County, tackling tough cases in criminal defense, immigration, and traffic law. But his work goes beyond the legal side. He's genuinely committed to the people he serves. He's an advocate, a mentor, and a resource for those facing the complexity of high stakes of the legal system. He's someone who believes in justice, fairness, and standing up for what's right. When he's in the courtroom, he brings an intensity and purpose to his work that's rare to find. In this episode, he'll give us an inside look into his approach to law, his thoughts of how the justice system impacts people's lives, and his commitment to make a difference for those in his community. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Chris Cain.
I was a challenge for my mother raising me. I was kind of hyperactive. And when I was really young, I think that some of my teachers told my mom, we need to get your kid on Ritalin. We need to get him on Adderall or whatever the drug was at the time. And my mom was against that. Yeah. My mom was a little bit, I think I had cloth diapers when I was a kid. My mom put me in swimming before school, soccer after school, and that's how it started. So when I was young, I had all this energy. And my mother's solution to that was to just put me into sports, to put me into things to distract me. She thought little boys have all sorts of energy. It's natural. It's unnatural for them to sit still for 8 hours a day. Let's tire this kid out. And a result of that was that I would still get in trouble, but I just had good cardio. Like I would still end up finding my way into trouble. I'd still
third gear or fourth gear.
Yeah. I was a really adventurous kid. I would always go exploring. I would be the one to always be the stand-up one, like, well, who wants to go first? I'd be the first one to jump off the cliff into the ocean, right? That sense of adventure got me into trouble. It got me into trouble in school. It got me into trouble with the cops. I was a bad driver growing up, and I got a number of speeding tickets and ran into some other things. But along the timeline, I always thought that no one was really sticking up for me. No one was really defending me in a good way. And I kind of felt like I was on my own. So from high school and college age, I thought, I wish someone would stick up for me. And now I feel like I'm kind of fighting for people who don't have someone to fight for them. I'm fighting for people the way I wish someone would have fought for me when I was young. So that's kind of the top-down view from really far away of how I got there. A little bit more detailed is that while I was in college, I had a pretty good job. I had a sales job. I was making good money. This is over 20 years ago. I was making over $1,000 a week. I was driving a nice car. I was doing sales. I was on the phone, doing inside sales as well. And everything was going well until the business went under. I graduated from college and that business went under. And somewhere along my path, I had taken the LSAT. And that was kind of in the background, and if that business hadn't gone under, I would still be doing sales. I'd be like in Silicon Valley doing sales, but I had that LSAT score. Then I applied to law school and packed up my car, drove across the country and came back as a law school graduate and passed the bar.
So what was the moment where you realized where you wanted to pursue law? Because something that you had mentioned to me where it was kind of always in the back of your head, but was there a moment that you remember where it was something that you wanted to pursue? We always have that when we're growing up, like, oh, I want to be a professional athlete. Oh, I want to be a doctor. I want to be a lawyer. I want to be a surgeon, etc. Was there a moment for you that you remember where it's like, I want to pursue law?
I think that I knew I wanted to go into business and I knew I wanted to make money. And I knew I wanted to be successful. And I was making decisions that weren't really conducive for that. And I kind of had a shift at some point, maybe when I was 21 or 22, where I thought I need to go in a better direction. And whatever that direction is, it just needs to be on the up and up. It needs to be proper. It needs to be respected in society.
Yeah.
And law was it turned out to be the most convenient tool for me. It turned out to be just a path where I could see myself being successful. Otherwise, I would have had to break into my own entrepreneurship and done something else. Maybe it would have been getting into construction, maybe installing garage door openers or something like that and have a business grow from there. But part of it also was with my mother. She said, finish your education, get educated. There's a lot of pressure from mom. Just get your education, just do it. And so that was kind of it. And I was just, I was along for the ride. I was like, okay, I can do this. Yeah. This seems like this makes sense to me. I can do this and this will work for me.
Do you remember a moment where you were in the pursuit and in your career of law where you were like, you know what, I'm pretty good at this?
That comes and it goes. That comes and it goes. And there's definitely moments when I'm in the courtroom and I'm like, damn, I'm good. But there's other times when I'm in there and I'm like, I just got flattened. I just got destroyed in there. And I'll get blindsided by some things. It's not often now because I've been doing it for a lot longer. But early on, there were times when I would just get blindsided and I'd be like, man, I really wish I could have done a little bit better. But especially with criminal defense, there are moments where I've had creative approaches that the prosecutor's like, wow, that's a really good solution. Yeah. That's really great. And I think part of it for me was that I didn't intern at the public defender's office. I didn't intern for the DA. I didn't work for anyone else. I kind of just made my own way. Yeah. So I had a fresh outlook on it and a fresh approach, and that works. You can be disruptive and it can work. But I'm not so cocky that I'm thinking like, damn, I'm good. I mean, so every once in a while, a couple times a week, I'm like, yeah, that was a great outcome, but it's not just like the Midas touch on everything for me.
But it's also confidence, because there is a really big thing when it comes to confidence, especially being in that courtroom, because if you kind of go walk in there with your shoulders down, what's the momentum going to be like, especially with your clients, So I feel like confidence is a very big thing.
No, that's right. So there's something in the practice of law, it's called doing special appearances. So attorneys have to go to court for their cases, and attorneys aren't always available. They could have two cases at the same time in two different counties, and they can hire another attorney to do a special appearance and stand in for them. And they'll pay that other attorney like $100 or something. It's not a lot of money. But for the beginning of my career, I was doing a lot of that, all sorts of that all the time. And I was seeing these cases and I could get good results for clients who I've never met, for attorneys who I'd only exchanged emails with. And I was getting these things done. I was like, how come that other attorney is getting $500 for this case, but just giving me $100 and I'm doing all the work? And I thought about it for a little bit and I thought, this is like a paid internship. I'm just going to lean into this. I'm going to do this until I can build up, until I can save up enough money to start doing it on my own. And I kind of just embraced it and allowed it and used that as a learning process for me along the way. And then, it actually takes a lot to take your first case, to do that type of thing, and to have a person who has faced some challenge in the legal system and to say, yes, I know how to do this. I can handle this for you from start to finish. And to really believe that, it takes a number of those reps. It takes some experience along the way.
And building in those reps, we build either confidence or we get doubt. I feel like in the beginning phases where, especially relating it to the gym, you show up in the gym, one day you have a great day, 3 days, you just get beat. Right. And you're kind of doubtful, you're kind of questioning things. So while it was in the early days of the appearances of doing these small little gigs, did you hit more doubtful moments or did you gain more confidence during those days?
So I think I'm lucky in that I am able to remember the successes a lot more than I remember the failures. And I think that that's something among like gamblers too, where they always remember when they win, but they never remember that they lose. Because if they're walking into every hand thinking I could lose this, they're never going to bluff. So I was able to just kind of bank those wins and just hold on to those, and the rest of them I just let them wash away, because nobody really wants an attorney who's worried. An attorney, I mean, you need to be prudent, but no one wants an attorney who's doubtful of their own confidence, who's doubtful of their own abilities, who's somehow concerned that they're not going to get it done. And I like going in there with a positive attitude. So I think it's just part of me is that I remember the success and not the failure a little bit better.
Yeah. Do you think it's important to understand and like kind of reminisce on the failures? Because Warren Buffett, I heard him say this one time. He's like, I'm not really a big studier of success. I like studying failure. I like studying why people fail, their approach, their idea, why it went under.
Yeah.
He's like, I like to study failure more than I do success.
Sure. So you're talking about learning from mistakes, which I try to do. What I was talking about, I'm never going to ruminate. I'm never going to just dwell on what I did wrong and beat myself up over it. Yeah. If there's a novel case that I haven't heard of that gets cited, and that's why I lose the judge's decision, I'll go through and I'll debrief myself on that.
Yeah.
I'll figure out why. I'll come back better. I'll do a little bit more research the next time when I face that issue again, or I won't make that same mistake again.
Yeah.
I definitely keep that, but I don't keep it in a negative way.
Yeah.
I keep that as like, I just learned something new. I just figured out a new way that the judges are going to look at this, and I should actually take that into consideration moving forward.
Yeah. I wanted to go back where you were saying that nobody was helping you out. Nobody was defending you. Did you have a group of friends, or was it your family? Did you not have a backing when, say, you did get in trouble? Did you feel maybe your mother didn't like kind of back you in and kind of help you out, or even your friends when something happened on the outside of school? Like, did you ever have backup when it comes to that?
Sure, I had friends and I had social circles and all that kind of stuff. One time I did get arrested, and I called my dad from jail, and he's like, "Don't do that again." I was like, "Well, can you get me out?" He's like, "Well, you're going to have to talk to the judge about that." And he was and my dad was a successful businessman himself, but he had gotten into trouble when he was young and came through it and had his own redemption arc. Yeah. So he was like, "Well, deal with this and come through it, come out the other side better." And he wasn't there to rescue me. He was there to just kind of, make sure it didn't get too bad, but also but that's kind of what I'm talking about. It wasn't about friends having my back. It was more like, you need a strong attorney to look out for your best interests. Yeah. And there were times that I didn't really have that. And people come to me having faced sometimes like the worst night of their life. They've been arrested, they've got into trouble, they've never dealt with that before. They don't see themselves as criminals, and they need somebody to fight for them. They need somebody to say, "I've got you. Yeah. We're going to get you through this. We're going to get you through this. Like, it might be rough, but we will get through this. Yeah. It's not the end of the world. We've got a plan. And if that plan doesn't work, we've got a second plan." Yeah. Like, there is a path forward, and I know the path. We're on it. So that's what I'm talking about when I say kind of having your back, is just that trusted advisor, that counsel that I think a lot of people need.
I love your why. I really feel like notifying a client that way of like, what, the reason why I'm here talking to you right now, the reason why I'm doing this is just because I was in your shoes as well. And I'm trying to be here for you the way I didn't have it. And I wish I had it. And I feel like that gives a client so much enthusiasm. We're like, oh my God, this guy's going to fight for me.
Like, I actually enjoy going into court. And I have a lot of fun with it. I like going sparring with the district attorneys. Yes. I like, when I do misdemeanors and felonies, there's a DA that's assigned to the case, and we'll develop this relationship where we'll go back and forth with points and counterpoints. If I do traffic cases, it's just me and the cops. So sometimes I'll go into the traffic court and there's 10, 12 cops there, and they all have cases with me. Right? So we'll be in the hall. It'll be like me and 10 highway patrol and 2 cops from Salinas PD, and we'll go through all the cases. And I don't mind. It's like me against this horde of cops, and it's like, let's go, let's do this. I don't mind that little thing, and I never feel intimidated by them. Yeah. But there is something else. I mean, I really do like it, and I really like helping people. And you can't see it from here, but I do have a series of photographs in my office of famous people mugshots. I've got Bill Gates, I've got Paris Hilton, I've got Robert Downey Jr., and there's a couple pictures of Robert Downey Jr. And when people see that, they might not realize it unless I fully explain it, but what I want them to know is that in 1999, this guy was arrested. He was facing serious felonies. That didn't stop him. That didn't stop him. You might not like Bill Gates, but whatever he was arrested for didn't stop him. Yeah. And everyone can have this. And our society, our culture loves a redemption arc. We love it when people come back. And I want people, I don't care if they're in the middle of their villain arc. I don't care if they're at the bottom. I want them to get that redemption. And I feel like where I am with my job, I can really help people on that path. I can put them on the right path to come back.
Yeah.
So I want to inspire people to do that and say, hey, I'm going to do everything I can. It's on you to do this. And we're going to come out of this. And on a long enough timeline, we're going to get it all dismissed.
Yeah.
It's going to be great. We're going to get through this. You just got to do what I say.
Do you ever have difficult clients?
All the time.
Yeah. How do you get past that?
I mean, part of it's on them.
Yeah.
Part of it's on them. And I can only do so much. And sometimes there's other things going on that's really far outside of the scope of what an attorney can do. Like they've got other struggles, or they don't want to tell me the truth. And I know they're lying, and they know they're lying, and they know that I know that they're lying, and they still do it. And it's like, okay, well, what can I do here? Right? What can I do? I can try to have a heart to heart with them, but part of it is on them. Like I know that the scope of what I do, I'm not a therapist, right? I'm not a doctor. I can't go home and make sure they don't drink, right? Like some of that is on them. Yeah. So I kind of just let go at some point after trying a little while, and I don't think about it. It's on them. It's if they don't want to show up to court when I tell them when to show up to court, like that's on them. They're going to get a warrant, and it's going to be what it is.
Could it be mentally draining having to repeat yourself so many times?
Yeah. So I have a staff. And we could talk about that. So when I hired my first employee, I'd actually read a book on like scaling your law firm and how to do it. And it said, throughout the week, make a list of the 20 things you do as an attorney. And, I had almost 20 things I did all week. Like I was going to court, I was calling clients, I was filing things, I was doing invoicing, all this stuff. And it said, now take that list and divide it into the things you like doing and the things you don't like doing. And then hire somebody to do the things you don't like doing. So I was like, okay, great. So I brought in this person to work for me, and I said, hey, this is what I've done. I've got the shit list. Are you okay with doing these things?
Yes.
And she said, yes, I love invoicing. I love calling clients up. I love hounding them to make sure that they've got their things that we need to file in advance of the court date. And I said, okay, perfect, you're in. And I've that's kind of a protective measure I've done for myself, is that I don't want to chase clients down for payments. I don't want to have a conversation with a client about how they're behind on payments, because I want to be able to fight one fight, and that's a fight on their behalf. And if I have to fight two fights, one with them to get money and one for them, it confuses my brain. Yeah. So I allow my staff to kind of fill in that void and to do that. And I'm really inspired by a friend of mine. He's a surgeon, and I know he's a spinal surgeon. He's very successful. I know all he does is surgeries. He gets in there, he washes his hands, and he does the surgery, and then he gets out. He's not setting the appointments. He's not billing insurance. Yeah. He's not doing that stuff. He's not calling people to make sure they get there. Yeah. And if I can put systems in place in my business where I can just go to court, where I can just do the parts I really love doing, I'll be able to do it forever. Yeah. And also, if you have a surgeon who's distracted by having to call, distracted by all those other things, they may not be as good of a surgeon. Yeah. Right? So I want to be the best attorney I can be. And it's like, I just want to fight for the client. I want to be able to do the research. I want to be able to argue on their behalf. And the more I push away those other things and push them down to my staff, I'm sorry, staff, but the more I push it down to them and allow them to do that, the more effective I am. Right? So the better attorney I can be.
But there's also something else that you're looking for when it comes to these people who are working under you. And what are those principles and what are those attributes that you personally look for?
So I need someone who I can trust. I need to have confidence in the staff, and I need to feel like if I'm not there to do it, that they'll take care of it. That if I'm gone for a day or two, which is kind of not something that happens right now, but if I'm gone, that everything will still run smoothly. So I need to be inspired by them. I'm also, you're right that I've done it all. I've done everything in my office, and I've said that to employees. Like, I'm never going to ask you to do something that I haven't done. We have to file 10 things today. There's been days that I filed 20 things. Like, let's just get through it, right? Yeah. Something else that I'm never going to shy away from is hiring somebody who's better than me at things. I did all the intake for all of the clients for years. Yeah. I would pitch them, I would close them, I would get their credit card number, I'd count the cash. But now I have a case manager. I heard her on the phone not too long ago, and I thought, she's better at this than I am. She's actually better at closing these cases than I am. And it's like, I'm okay with that. Like, I'm okay with that. And I tried to close one after that. It didn't really go well. You can't close every case. And I'm like, I should just stay off the phone. I should just be an attorney. I mean, she should be the one to close it. Yeah. So I have no problem with hiring people who have special skills that are better than me. But if we're talking about attributes for someone coming into the office, they have to be punctual. They have to be honest. I have to be able to trust them. They have to be competent. But it doesn't mean that I'm afraid to train them. I mean, I'm not afraid to hire someone who's never been an attorney if they have attributes that I think are good, that would translate well. Like if someone's been doing medical collections and billing and they've been front office at a doctor's office for a long time and they're bilingual, they could probably work in my law office. I mean, they understand codes, they understand different things. We have codes, I can bring them in. So I really want someone who I can trust and rely on, just a level of competency.
You said over the phone, we were talking a few weeks ago, how you were saying one of my specialties is interviewing people.
Yeah.
So when you are interviewing people, when it comes to employees, what are some of the red flags that you see?
Yeah, I want them to answer the questions that I'm asking. And you can suss out pretty quick when someone's a bullshit artist. And one of the questions I heard, actually Elon Musk say this when he interviews people, he asked them, what's the hardest problem that you've solved? And they talk about the problem. They say, okay, how did you solve it? And he said, within a few moments, you can figure out if this person is a problem solver, right? And so if they say the hardest problem I've solved is getting along with my coworkers, it's like, and I solved that by going to management, getting them, it's like, it's not going to work here. It's not going to work here. You're not going to HR here. I'm HR, it's like, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
But if the problems that they solve are complex and they had solutions for it, and we can get to it really quickly, and I can understand, that sounds like a challenging problem. Yeah, it sounds like they came up with a good solution for it. Then I see them as a problem solver.
Yeah.
In this area, it's important for my staff to be bilingual. And everyone who applies for the position, I make sure that's clear. Are you bilingual? And they always say yes. And would you be able to handle some interpreting? They say yes. And then we bring them in. We actually do an interpreting task, an interpreting exercise. And it's me and a case manager who speaks Spanish. And I'll say, well, we'll get to it. And I'll say, well, would you mind doing some interpreting? Like if we had a client who didn't speak English and I'd come back from court, would you be able to communicate the results? So yeah. Okay, well, let's do that right now. So we go through, okay, I went to court, it went well. And we start with some simple sentences. And then it becomes increasingly more complex, and when you enter a plea, you'll have to do a 3-month program. There's a fine of $1,800, and you'll have to do 10 days of community service to the Sheriff Work Alternative Program. That's a complicated list.
Yes.
That's hard to repeat, even from English to English. And so we increase the difficulty of the interpretation until they get rattled. And when they get rattled, I let them off the hook.
Yeah.
Because everyone's going to get rattled eventually. And then I let them off the hook and I say, don't worry, it's not an interpreting job. You'll be able to prepare. We have ChatGPT that can translate. Yeah. And then I hit them with a softball. I hit them with the most softball, easiest question. You went to school in San Jose. Did you like the weather up there? And the test, of course, is interpreting. The secondary test is how quickly does a person come back to baseline after getting shook? Because it is a law office. Yeah. We deal with people who are going through a really challenging time in their life, or we deal with their families. And someone can come into the office frustrated or scared or whatever. And then immediately after that, we'll get a phone call from a prospective new client. And I want employees who can change gears, who can come back to baseline, who won't let that linger forever. And actually I had an employee or an interviewee call me later and said, I thought of a better way to answer that. And I actually really liked it that they came back to baseline really quickly during the interview, but then later they called back and they thought, I was thinking about that. And so it stuck with them, but it didn't stick with them to where the rest of their interview, they were just frozen in their chair.
Yeah.
That's a thing that I came up with on my own, a question. Another question that I like to ask people is I explained some services that we do and how some clients will need additional services. And if it's an immigration case, they may need like maybe a document translated. And we've already got through that they can translate a document, no problem. I say, how much should we charge for that? So I ask a prospective employee, how much should we charge for that? And they said, well, I don't know. And, and if they've done it before, they already have an answer, but I'll ask them that on something they haven't done before. How much do you think we should charge for that? I said, I don't know. I said, well, come up with it, and they know how much we're offering them per hour. I ask them how long it will take, and then I ask them how much should we charge for it. So maybe they're making $20, $30 an hour. They say it's going to take them 10 minutes. How much should we charge for that 10-minute task? And it puts them on the spot. Is this a person who sees value in themselves and value in what they offer? Yeah. Because that's a special skill, what they're about to do. It's not like I can't translate a document as quickly as they could. And do they see value in the business? Or do they just want to give this away? Or do they want to, is there value completely? Is it cartoonish? We're going to charge $1,000 to translate a document. That's not right either. It's not $1, it's not $1,000. So we get to their business sense with that question. So the questions that I ask in the interview are really designed to suss out different things than the direction of the question. Yeah. And you and I talked about it a little bit too, where I'm not a movie theater that can afford to hire all sorts of people all the time. Like a movie theater can hire anyone. Yeah. Starbucks, they have some screening, but if it doesn't work out with an employee, they're going to bounce back. My office is small enough that I need to vet people hard before letting them in the door. And we're doing important things, not that other things aren't important, but we're doing important things here. So we need valuable employees. So that's what I'm trying to get to the bottom of, just even though it's a smallish business.
Yes. And how does it feel for you? Because you are trying to eke out if these people are problem solvers. For you are solving problems every single day. You can be in any situation possible, whether it's day, night, rain or shine. You are a natural problem solver.
I think I'm just creative with it. I'm just creative, and I don't like to lose. Yeah. I don't like to say no. I don't like to have things not work out. So someone said, it's like a snake in the bamboo. Like you can't let anything in your way stop you from moving forward. You just have to go around it. So that I look for that in people. I look for that in myself. Yeah. And sometimes I'll come out of a legal situation. I'll think, man, this is intractable. I don't think there's a way forward. And then I'll have to think about it. Yeah. I'll think about it and I'll think I need to come up with a solution for this one. How do I solve this one? And sometimes it won't be right away. It might be the next day. Luckily, in these cases, you go to court maybe once a month for a case. So I'll have time to let it incubate and to just kind of do it. Sometimes I'll revisit it. Sometimes I'll talk to other people about it. But usually I can come up with a path forward. If it's not right away, it'll happen. Yeah. You
were saying a lot that you were very competitive. And I feel like in your industry, it is very competitive because either you have another attorney across from you, you're dealing with judges, police, so on and so forth. How are you studying these people? Do you do that?
Yeah, it never stops. Yeah. I think that in business, you kind of have to keep your eye on your competition. Yeah. And it's a funny situation with what I'm doing in that I'm competing for clients with all of the other defense attorneys in town. But at the same time, there might be two people in the backseat of a car. One of those people hires me, the other one hires my competition, and we're simpatico and we're trying to beat the prosecution. So we're teamed up against them. So there's a camaraderie among the defense bar, and then there's also competition for clients. Yeah. But we kind of just pretend that the competition's not there for clients. Like that's not really something we talk about. We don't really talk about how many new cases we got or any kind of thing like that. It's just, that's a little bit invisible. But I am watching all of their social media. Yeah. I am watching all of them and watching what they do and watching their advertisements, seeing what works for them and what doesn't work for them. Yeah. One of the things that I kind of pride myself on is that I came into this market here and it was pretty much saturated with defense attorneys. And I was a little bit disruptive. I was the first guy to really get on Instagram and TikTok and do stuff. I was the first guy to throw up a billboard. Yeah. I was the first one to do a lot of things. And then I went from someone, I'd walk down the hall, I'd see these other attorneys, I'd seen them in court for years. They never knew my name. I always knew their name. And then all of a sudden they were saying hi to me in the hall, as soon as the billboard went up, right? And it's like, oh, now you recognize me. I'm doing the same work I was doing 3 weeks ago, but now I have a billboard and it's like, now I'm good. Yeah. It's like, no, I've been doing it. How do you think I saved the money for that billboard, right? So I'm watching them and I'm seeing what works for them and what doesn't work. And I'm trying to learn from them as well.
Yeah, and I feel like it drives innovation as well. And you're also in combative sports. You've been an athlete for so long. You're always challenging yourself physically. And also you doing jujitsu, you're always challenging yourself. It is a war in there all the time. The courtroom is a constant war all the time. And something that I like that you're doing is I love your social media presence. A lot of people take that for granted. It is a resume. And if you don't either use it, it'll use you. I don't see a lot of lawyers on social media. I don't see them utilizing it.
I think that they're scared. I think that they're scared to put it out there. They're scared to set up a camera and a ring light and to do it. And I just jumped in. I had no choice. I was doing okay without a lot of that. And then once I started doing that, it really worked well.
Yeah.
I did have a video where the sheriff of Monterey County had been caught speeding a number of times. Now, the CHP were letting her go. They were getting downward pressure. And I don't understand everything that goes on with all that. But I had heard that she was getting pulled over and stopped and that she had a bad attitude. I had heard that from law enforcement and I didn't say a thing. I wasn't putting that on my social media until it got into the news. It gets into the news that the sheriff comes and there's a couple of videos. So I was like, great. It's time for me to make a video on this. So I make a video and I say, Sheriff, you don't have to act like a sovereign citizen. You don't have to act like this to these cops. You're putting them in a tough spot. If you get pulled over, just give me a call. I don't think that any other defense attorney in town would have had the gall to call out the sheriff, right? Just say, hey, Sheriff, you're just like the rest of my clients. Stop hassling these cops. You can call me. Even if you get a DUI, you can call me.
Yeah.
The dude, not trying to say anything disparaging about the other defense attorneys, but they might think that that's beneath them. They might think that they can't just be that like a little edgelord and just be like, Sheriff, call me if you get a ticket. And they might be afraid of it. They might think that it's going to come off wrong. They might think it's going to turn off their high ticket clients to do that type of stuff. But I don't think that. I think that if I'm speaking directly to people and I'm shooting straight, that they're going to respect that and they're going to be okay with it. Maybe they're going to laugh at it. But going back to social media, I feel like there are all sorts of things I'm missing. I feel like every day I see things that I want to make a video on multiple times a day. I need to go over to my office and set up the camera, throw the mic on and talk about this. And then it'll come to the end of the day. I've been to court for 12 different cases and I'm just exhausted. And my tie is loose and I'm like, I just want to go home. I don't have time to do that. So you might be seeing the end product. What you're not seeing is that I feel like I'm not doing enough. I feel like there's all sorts more that I should be doing. And I have plans for future things that I'm going to do. And it's all going to work out. Like I'm really excited about where it's going, but I feel like I'm not doing enough. Like it's just not even close to where I should be on it.
Well, you know why? It's because you're a high achiever. But it's interesting where you could see an old picture of yourself back then. You're like, oh my God, I can't believe I was doing this at this time frame. And now look at me. Yeah. So I feel like one of the biggest problems that we have personally is we don't pinch ourselves. We don't kind of sit down to smell the roses a little bit and just kind of like, all right, we're doing good, but let's get back to work regardless. You know what I mean? It's never, even though it's never good enough, it's still nice to be like, man, it's not perfection, it's progression. And have you noticed that within yourself? Because where we are right now in this beautiful environment, it took a lot of years to get here. And I know you got plans and this is going to be just tenfold of what this is now. Right. But do you notice that you need to pinch yourself a little bit more and kind of just like, man, I'm doing okay and I'm happy where I'm at, but I still need to bust my ass.
I think that's exactly how I feel.
Yeah.
And I try to look at my numbers. I try to track it. You need to know your numbers for your business to grow. You need to know how much you're spending, how much you're making, all that. But every once in a while, I just kind of ignore that. I don't have the bandwidth to crunch all those numbers, you know? And then I'll take a look back. I'll be like, I'm actually doing okay. Yeah. I'm actually doing okay. Like I was thinking, once I reached this spot, I would open a third office and I could have opened it by now, like, okay, now I need to go open that third office. Now I need to go do that. But I'm not trying to feel good about myself, to think, oh my goodness, I made X dollars last year. Yeah. I'm not trying to do that. I don't think I ever want to be complacent with it. I just want to keep moving forward. And I do have plans over the next year. I want to hire at least 2 more people, including another attorney. want to open another office down in South County.
Yeah.
There's another courthouse down there, and I want another spot down there and put 2 people in it. And I have a 5-year plan. I have a 10-year plan. And, ultimately it might be like me and a son living in Thailand, like going to Tiger Muay Thai, and then just like calling to the office
That's the
once
dream.
a week. Right. And then just having like a whatever. Right. So maybe that's way down the road, but for now I need to just keep going.
Going back to competition, when I was a fighter, my coach would religiously have me study my opponents, whether it's looking at their social media, even how they post a caption. How do they write? He made me do this, which was very shocking to me in the very beginning. He made me put myself in a position where if you are your opponent and I'm you, how are you going to beat me?
Right.
And I'm like, oh, I'm going to do this. He's like, okay, work on that.
Right.
I have to put myself in scenarios where I'm 10 steps ahead. So when you're studying your competition on ways where people can get their edge against you, how do you make sure that they don't?
Right. So I actually think that's a sign of intelligence to be able to take a step out and see things from another perspective. That's a separate frame. And then there's another frame on top of that. And the more you can kind of frame out from there and look down from a different perspective, the better you're going to understand a situation. I try to look at all sides of something. Like, let's say I have a police report and there's aspects in the police report. I'll go through it and be like, what are they going to argue? What are their strong points in the police report? What are my strong points? When we go into chambers and we discuss this case with a judge, I know that DA is overworked. I know they haven't had a chance to watch all the videos that I've watched for this client. What am I going to bring up? How am I going to head them off at the pass? Like they're going to say they need time to think about it. And I'll say, well, guess what? Here's what you're going to see on there. And here's why that actually doesn't matter for this particular case. And here's this and here's this. So I think putting in the work and just trying to have a big understanding of it is a good thing. It's not, there aren't that many Perry Mason moments in real criminal defense. There are a few here and there, but for the most part, there's not surprises. Person gets charged with a felony, evidence doesn't look good, I want it reduced to a misdemeanor. The DA knows that I want it reduced to a misdemeanor. I know they want this person to go down for a felony. So how do we cut that loaf of bread where we meet in the middle, where the middle is towards the misdemeanor, right? So the client's not losing their right to vote or whatever.
Yeah.
So some of it's not really a surprise, and some of it is just doing the work. It's just taking the time to go through the documents, take time to review everything, to actually get in there and do the hard work.
Well, what's the feeling like when it doesn't go your guys' way?
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough. And we can walk out of there. I had a client actually, I thought for sure this motion that I filed would prevail. I thought for sure it would. And we had a hearing on the motion. It's a motion that works all of the time in this county. It's a motion that works in Santa Cruz. It's a motion that works in San Benito. Yeah. But we were in Stanislaus. And I'd never been in front of that judge before, never known the DA before. We zoom into court. Judge doesn't even give us a chance to speak. He just kind of recited everything, every talking point from the prosecution's motion, and then just said, and that's why I'm ruling against you. Bam. And it was done. And the guy was like, man, we didn't even get to talk. And I was like, no, we didn't. But, it's a discretionary motion. I mean, the judge can go either way. There's no appealing it, but we just got flattened by it. We got flattened by it, and it is what it is. And we just have to come up with something else. Okay, now what are we going to do to soften the landing? Now what are we going to do to make sure that this doesn't cause him to lose his license or whatever might be down the road? Where can we go from here? You can't get stuck in that. You just have to be like, okay, I was hoping we'd win that. It didn't work out. Yeah. Now we're going to have to do this. And there's always going to be another thing, right?
Yeah. When it's all done, it's all settled, and your client is happy, you're happy. I feel like that smile when everything is just pretty much done. Yeah. It's a different kind of feeling, man. Because again, going back to your why and seeing your client satisfied, it's a different fulfillment when you're in business, but you're in a business of service.
No, that's right. It's a great moment if the district attorney comes around and decides to dismiss the case. And we walk out of there. I'm like, let's get out of here. Let's go. And then we're walking down the hall. I'm like, that was good. We got everything we wanted. Yeah. And then I shake their hand. I say, don't let this happen again. Yeah. And getting a case dismissed, getting a good reduction from a serious charge to a not serious charge, when the evidence doesn't look good, and it's an incredible feeling. Yeah. And the clients are ecstatic, and they're just like, thank you so much. And they want to shake my hand, want to give me a positive review on Google, which of course I love. Yeah. So those moments are great. And I really live for those moments. And like I said, I try to just let go of the ones that don't go well. I try to just let them go and not let them keep me up at night, and just hang on to the ones that are positive.
What's the process of even entering a courtroom? Because like you said, when you open those doors, it's like, okay, well, shoulders are back. I'm ready. I'm looking at everybody, so on and so forth. But what's that approach like, man? It's almost like going into a tournament or going into a fight or maybe a wedding day, et cetera, where there are nerves. How do you stay calm during those times?
So law school actually has a process that prepares attorneys for court, and it's called the Socratic method. So when you go into law school, maybe the class has 70 or 80 students in there, and the teacher will call on a student randomly. And you had to read 10 cases for the day. You have to be prepared. And maybe they have everyone's name on an index card, and they'll say, okay, Mr. Cain, can you tell us about, the People versus Johnson? Then you have to stand up in front of all your peers and start talking about the case. Oh, it's a breach of contract. The professor's like, yeah, it's a contracts class. Okay, what's the contract about? And they start just peppering you with questions and just grill you. Yeah. And it's intimidating. And you have to get through that. You have to get past your stage fright. You have to get past your fear of public speaking. One thing that helps me, though, is doing jujitsu in the morning. Get through an hour of jujitsu, and I'm out of there at 7. I'm showered. I'm here 7:45 in the morning. Court's not till 8:15. I go into court. No matter what happens in court, nobody's trying to choke me. No one's trying to armbar me, right? I already got through the hardest part of the day where there was like some cop who I'm kind of friends with. We're kind of friends. That cop was trying to choke me unconscious, and I was trying to do the same to him.
Yes.
Whatever's going on in the courtroom, that's peanuts compared to the stress of physical combat. So I kind of have that too, right? So going through school, you get used to public speaking. Going through other trials in your life, you get used to the trial of court. But those nerves definitely go away. Yeah. The nerves of like, what am I going to say when I get in there? That's been gone for a while. It's more just like, I'm excited to argue my side. I'm excited to let this judge know what's really going on. And I just get up there and I say what I need to say. And there's an argument, then we're talking quickly. We're thinking fast. Yeah. We're getting through it. And I actually like that challenging environment.
Do you feel like you doing this physical activity, this physical combat gives you an edge, especially in that courtroom?
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course it does. I'm 45, and there are
32.
There are a lot of attorneys who are 45 and they're not in good shape and they're struggling, and they let their career take over their whole life, and they work long hours, and at the end of the day, they're eating big meals. They're eating out at the end of the day because they don't have time to food prep. They don't have time to do other things. They're overworked and they're out of shape. And those guys, the fastest they've run in the past 5 years was when they were crossing the street and the light changed and they had to scamper a little bit.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like they've not gone for a run in a long time, and they might get hurt, stepping up the curb. So I think that I believe in the sound body, sound mind. I absolutely believe in that. And I believe when you get the blood flowing, when you're in good shape, it kind of percolates out to the rest of your life, and you're sharper and you're faster, and things just work better in your brain if you are physically fit.
And it's a huge edge and an advantage in that courtroom because people see you and they know just by looking at you and obviously how literate you are, you take yourself very seriously.
Right.
If they see somebody who looks tired, is obviously not in the best shape, how do you take yourself seriously at all? So I feel like that's another edge that you have, is you take yourself very, very seriously.
Well, that actually goes out into every part of the practice in the image. So if a client comes in and they come into this office and it's covered with paper, and there's like a crumpled up bag from McDonald's like on the floor and 2 empty drinks, they might not say anything. They might still hire me, but in their mind, they might have a background concern that I have a messy desk. They will have a messy file. I'm disorganized here. I'll be disorganized in how I handle their case. So the image makes a difference. Making your bed in the morning makes a difference. Doing everything right, having a clean car makes a difference, because when you're conscientious in some areas you're probably conscientious. In all areas,
Yeah.
when you have attention to detail here, you have it there. So if we see someone and we see, and this person's a hard worker, they're a hard worker. They take care of themselves. They take care of their office. They take care of their staff. When they say they're going to call, they call. You know, when I ever have a question, they know exactly what the answer is. That flows out into everything else. That inspires confidence in the clients. And I think it inspires confidence in the district attorneys. File my motion early, have a good detailed motion with no typos, that they know that I'm taking the case seriously. So it kind of just goes out, and I think it starts with the individual. It starts with me, right? It starts with me, and it goes out from here to my office, to my staff, to everything.
When you first got this space and you got the keys, it's open and you're bringing clients in and out, what was the feeling like of standing here, man? Because like sitting in your seat right now, I'm kind of like, this is a pretty big deal for you.
Yeah. No, it is. It actually took me a while to furnish it. Like this desk took months to show up. I ordered it. It got delayed. But, you know, and I'm glad I waited because the desk alone weighs 460 pounds, but it feels very real, right? It's not like people are coming in and we've got this low ceiling with fluorescent lights that are blinking, right? Where they're not really they don't know what's going on.
Yes.
They know that it's serious here. But I'll say this, when I first got started, I didn't have an office. You know, I was doing a couple different jobs. I was moonlighting at the aquarium. I'd also worked a corporate job where I did in-house for a little while in Ryan Ranch. But early on, I left the corporate job. Before I started at the aquarium, I was doing these appearances that I talked about, and I'd actually done a number of evictions. And I'd worked for a law firm that represented banks, and they were doing commercial evictions. There was a downturn, and around 2010, 2011, I had evicted the owner-operator of a self-storage facility. And it's a self-storage facility in Sand City, and it was very run down. It was for sale. And the bank manager called me, and he said, hey, we need somebody to run, you know, do-it-yourself storage.
Yeah.
And we pay $25 an hour. Can you help us find somebody? And I go, I know just the guy. I didn't have an office at all. I was meeting clients at the law library. So I practiced law out of a self-storage facility for about a year. And I would go in there, I'd use the computer, I'd use the internet, I'd use my cell phone, and those places run themselves, so I didn't really need to be there. I could disappear, I could go off to court and then come back and use their printer to print the stuff out. So for about a year, instead of having to pay rent, I actually had people paying me to be there and just to do it. And the self-storage clients had no idea that I was an attorney. Like I'd change, you know, somewhere else or just change and just go and then come back and put jeans on. And the other attorneys and the judges had no idea that I was like the do-it-yourself storage guy. Yeah. But I just had to do that to get through. So I know what it's like to practice law out of a little tiny place with bars on the windows. Yeah. You know, but I also know the value. Like I would have never taken a client there, right? But I know the value of having a place that looks established, a place that looks good. And when I got this spot, I was happy. I'm still trying to work on my other spot and build it up. My entire staff.
Going back to it's never enough.
Yeah. My entire staff works over at the other spot, and there's an office next door, and that business operator may retire. As soon as that happens, we're going to move into that other spot and double the square footage over at that other spot, just to give people their own space. But it's all going together, right? It's all working together.
But going back to that little facility that you first started working at until now, it's going back to smelling the roses and seeing what you've built. So like that, man, you've done great things.
No, it never ends. It never ends. And thinking back, like I know I was driving this kind of beat up pickup truck at the time, beat up pickup. Yeah. And not long ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, a young person I knew, a guy who I'd raced bikes. He had raced bikes. I'd kind of mentored him. He was looking for summer work. He graduated from high school. He put it out like, I'm looking for work. He did all the landscaping around my house. And I paid him, and I gave him an old pickup truck that hadn't run. So this young 18-year-old kid fixes up this truck. He gets it running again. He starts his little landscaping business. And now he's at university, and he's going to be a civil engineer. But I'm just thinking about that pickup truck that was the only thing I had at the time, really. And then I got to a point 5 years ago where I just gave it away to some young kid. Cause I like the kid and I want him to do fun things. And then he fixed up the truck. I'm like, man, I kind of want that truck back, but I'm not asking for the truck back. But yeah, just come a long way. Right. And it's the other thing that I really like to be able to do is to support other people in their ventures. Yeah. And I never really just want to give someone a handout. I think that's the wrong thing. But if you know someone who writes a book, you have to buy their book. Yeah. You know them, they put a lot of themselves into that book, just buy the book. And you know someone who has a business. I have a buddy who's launching a business. He's selling chicken and rice. Yeah. I don't eat a lot of chicken, but I'm buying it. Every time he does his pop-up, I'm buying it for my office. Yeah. I'm buying it to take home. Right. So it's like, I just want to support those people. And the best way to support someone is to support their business, is to have it. Like giving someone $500 is not the same as buying $500 worth of their product. Yeah. Because that's a very real thing that will have them be more successful. And that comes around too, right? Like that ultimately comes around. So that's how I want to kind of give back. And I'm at a point now where it's like, yeah, I don't eat chicken, but I'll buy 3 of them for the office. Like, that's fine. Let's go.
I feel like those who've created something or built something, they can appreciate it. Just like you're a winner and you like to support other winners and it shows. And unfortunately, the people who don't, that shows as well. There's a winning mindset and there's a losing mindset.
I don't want things to be easy either. And I'll, because if it's easy, then everyone can do it. Yeah. I know I'll get there. Yeah. I know I'll get there. And actually, I want it to be hard. I want there to be a selection. I want there to be a thing that other people can't make it through, but I can. Yeah. Not that I want other people to not succeed. I want them to succeed. I have an abundance mindset. I don't have a scarcity mindset. Yeah. I'm not afraid of competition. I think there's enough for everyone. If we all work hard, we can all get there.
For sure.
But I would never want to live in a system where being lazy gets rewarded. I want to live in a system where hard work gets rewarded because I want to work hard. And I think that's just a part of me. Like I like hard work. I like it to be difficult. I like to work on things and get it done. Yeah. And I'm like a working dog, right? Like if you can get a lap dog or you can get a working dog, right? And if people will make a mistake and they think they're runners and they think I'm going to get that dog because I like to run, that dog will run with me. And then they don't, they get too busy. And that working dog will be in their backyard, will run back and forth along the fence line, and there'll be no grass left in that little strip where that dog runs back and forth all day long. And then it starts digging, right? So I'm like that dog where I need to be put to work. Otherwise I'll get destructive. I'll start digging. And that kind of goes back to me as a little kid. Like I needed to get into sports. I needed to be competitive. I needed to have a positive outlet for that energy. So I'm fine with it. I don't mind the struggle. I don't mind that I'm not there yet. I just know I'm going in the right direction.
It makes me genuinely smile. If I'm suffering, if I'm going through the hard struggle, solving problems, man, it gets me fulfilled. Just like you, if I wasn't doing those, digging my head into a mud or so on and so forth, it's like, what are we doing? If there's a big thing when it comes to doing something that's so difficult and trying to put it all together, it gives you this weird fulfillment that I didn't know existed. Yeah. And if I can pursue that every single day, I am a happy man. And if I live like that, like you said, the first thing you do in the morning, you're struggling. You have another human on you trying to choke you out. That's difficulty. Jiu-jitsu is human chess. Fighting is human chess. And you're trying to see who's a step ahead. Oh man, I missed that round. You know what? I'm going to get you the next round though. And I'm going to capitalize on the mistake that I did. There needs to be struggle every single day. If not, I am not happy.
Right.
I can't do it.
And jiu-jitsu, you're right. It's a perfect metaphor for it. But again, like if I'm getting beat, if there's a hole in my game, I'm going to try to fix it. Yep. But I'm not going home and worrying about, oh my goodness, that guy always smashes me. Like, oh, I can't go against him because that guy always beats me. I don't mind that. Like, it's like, all right, man, let's go. All right. I'm partnering with the 250 pound black belt has been doing it for 20 years. This guy he's going to smush me and I'm going to have to try to get out. I'm going to have to try to get out. And then I got a little bit closer getting out this time than I did the time before. I'm calling that a win. Yeah. So I don't mind that. I've got Sisyphus pushing a boulder here. I've got a wall art in my other office, and it says, "Nobody cares, work harder." Yeah. And I was actually hesitant to put that up in the office because that's where my staff works. And I don't really want a poster that the staff, it's like, nobody cares, work harder. I don't really, no, that was for me.
They're like clocking like, damn.
my desk faces directly at that, so I'm seeing it. They're not really pointed at that, but nobody cares work harder is like, I want to get another one of those and put it up in this office.
Yeah.
And, with Sisyphus, he's pushing that boulder. It's absurd, but it's like, bro, are you done? I want to work in.
Yeah.
I'm ready for my set. I'm ready to start pushing my boulder. I'm ready to keep going.
Yeah.
Like, what else are we here for?
Yeah.
But that struggle.
So no man touches success or reaches success alone. They have some guidance. They have some mentorship. Did you have a mentor along the way? Did somebody that you looked up to, that you seeked guidance from, did you have that?
Yeah. So there have been different people that have been like involuntary mentors for me. People that I would just kind of tap into, and I'd ask them, like, when I was first doing criminal defense, I'd start going to this attorney and we'd get lunch, we'd go to ball games, and I'd always be able to ask him questions. Then I kind of outgrew it. I kind of outgrew that guy in particular. I started seeing his mistakes and recognizing them as cautionary tales and things I would never do. Yeah. And then you kind of just have to go from person to person. I've had a lot of people like that I've just kind of like, wow, that person's where I want to be. That they're doing something right.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to idolize them or lionize them and put them up on some pedestal, because I know they're people. I know that they could have character flaws. Yeah. I'm just trying to figure out what it is that they're doing right and learn from them and keep going. Now it's a little bit more difficult, where the people I'm looking to are more like people online who are making $80 million a year. They're running $80 million law firms. They're doing marketing companies that are making $100 million a year. And how are they doing it? Yeah. What are they doing? How do they scale this thing? What do they do? So I'm like letting my mentors be people who don't even know it. Yeah. I'm just trying to learn from books, just trying to learn from podcasts, just trying to kind of step it up, because this isn't a big enough city that there's some giant criminal defense law firm that I can go and ask for help. And they might not want to help me anyway. Yeah. So it's just, I kind of have to tap into other things.
Yeah. Have you ever heard that term of graduating from your mentors?
I haven't, but it makes sense.
It does, right? Yeah. So I've noticed that within myself, where I've called a lot of people mentors. There was a lot of people that I leaned on a lot when it comes to my development of life as a man. And I was like, it's weird that the trajectory has changed so much. There's always challenge. There's always critical critiques and technical critiques. And I actually crave that more than a pat on the back. I actually almost don't like that. And that was probably one of the biggest mistakes that I had in the beginning of my career, is I accepted too many applauses. Right. And I let it linger around me too much, and it halted progress. And I realized I need to be surrounded by people who critique me constantly. Yeah, I have a high production podcast. Cool. No. There are better cameras out there. There are better lenses out there to make it even more high quality. Right. I need to invest. I need to make it better. It is never good enough. There's always more work to do.
Right? That's part of the nobody cares work harder. Yeah. Nobody cares work harder. It's like nobody cares how good you've done, or nobody cares how hard it is. No one cares about like, you needed a root canal. Nobody cares about that. Just work harder. Just keep getting it done. And we need that discipline. I don't always want to get beat down, but we need that feedback from someone. And talking about graduating from mentors, I had that sales job when I was an undergrad after I graduated, and the business owner probably had a black belt in sales. He was incredible. Yeah. And he was a mentor to me. And I remember I got in there, I made my first phone call on like the first or second day. I was scared that someone would answer the phone. And Danny was standing behind me, telling me in my ear what to say, and I would just repeat it. Yeah. And he was just in there, just pressuring me, get the sale, don't get the sale, hang up. We'd go over it, next phone call, let's go. And it was just a constant thing. Yeah. So when I have my employees in my office and they're on the phone, and I'm like in their ear saying it, right? Some people can handle that. Some people can't. Some people will wilt under the pressure, and some people will grow. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of my approach. But Danny was a great manager for me, but he wouldn't be now. You know what I mean? Like whatever I learned from him is so far away. Right. It's 20 years ago. Yeah. We're in totally different places. So there's no way that person who was incredible for me at the time would be incredible for me now. And that's just the way life is.
Yeah. How often are you, seeking information, whether it's a book, whether it's podcasts? How often are you doing that? Because the world is changing so fast. The world moves so fast. So it's like we kind of have to keep up.
So what information? Are we talking about like legal information? Because
everything that you're personally interested that makes you enhanced.
Yeah. So I have subscribe to a legal search engine, which is like an AI assisted legal search. And I'm constantly running into that. I'm going to that thing all the time to research legal issues because, it can take you a while to find it. And it's really a time-saving tool more than anything. Like eventually I would find it, but this thing will give me the 5 cases right on point, right for the issue I want. So I'm constantly getting that information. But as far as the information to make my business grow, there are a handful of podcasts that I watch, and they're mostly on YouTube, and I just play them. I just listen when I'm driving to work in the morning. It's a 25, 30-minute drive. I just listen to as much as I can. If I don't get through it, I'll pick it up on my way home. So I'm constantly doing that. And these guys, they're talking about scaling your law firm. They're talking about hiring virtual assistants. They're talking about what systems to use, what phone system to use, how to solve this problem. What do you do when you run into this type of thing? How do you market? Where should you invest your money into advertising? So I'm constantly trying to learn from that, and that never ends. And because I'm constantly consuming that, might be why I'm never really satisfied, because I know I'm never going to live up to everything that this marketing company, and that's all they do. They do tens of millions of dollars a year in marketing. I'll never be able to do all that myself, but it's always something to aspire to. So there's that aspect of growing the business as well.
You're a leader, and it shows as well when it comes to that courtroom, when it comes to jiu-jitsu, when it comes to obviously in this building. Is that one of your greatest qualities, is leadership?
I don't know. I have a vision. I don't know that leadership is my greatest quality, because I know that I'm not for everybody. And maybe a good leader is more for everybody. Like I know I'm not for everyone, and I've come to terms with that. So, not to be difficult about it, but if I'm not for someone, then I'm just not for them. It's just not going to work. I'm sorry. Have a nice day. But I think that I have a vision, and I'm motivated to do it, and I have good problem solving skills. So that might be where it is too for me. I've thought it through. We can go in and start talking about something, and actually I've already thought of that. I've been thinking about this because it's all I'm doing. I'm not wasting time. I'm not playing video games. I'm not doom scrolling all day long on different things. I'm really focused on it. So that might be what's helping me. It's just focused on it. Like, this is my life. And, I was talking to one of my employees about it, about what our goals are and what it will take to achieve those goals. And I said, well, I'm committed. I'm 100% committed. Like I can't leave this job and go get a job anywhere else. Like, I am in for this. So this, I'm fully committed. Like, don't worry about my commitment to this thing. Like, if it means I'm not going to get paid for the next 6 months and all that money is going to have to go back into it, I'm committed. I have no plan B for this business. No other law firm is ever going to want to hire an attorney who's worked for themselves, because they're just a loose cannon and you just can't control them. So it's like, this is where it is for me. I'm 100% committed. And that's the way it goes.
Also, if somebody was interviewing you when it comes to entering a specific field, just like how you interview your employees, what are your greatest attributes?
Problem solving. That I work hard, that I'm competent, that I go in there and if you need someone to get something done, I'll go get it done. I think I get things done. Some things I'm not good at. I'm not good at. I'm not so good at tracking things over long periods of time and like following up and doing busy work. I'm not good at sitting and filing all the, we retain 15 traffic cases in one day. Each traffic case needs 2 documents filed. I'm not good at filing 30 documents. I'm not good at that busy work. There are a lot of people who can smash through 30 filings in a couple of hours and it's nothing to them. For me, I'll be crawling out of my skin, right? So I'm definitely not good at those things. But when it comes to actually doing the surgery, I'll get it done. I'll go in there and I'll be the surgeon. I'll go into court and I'll get it done. And you can always rely on me to go in there and just get it done.
If a young attorney, aspiring attorney, wanted to get to your specific level or gain some knowledge or value, what was the one thing that you would want to pass down to him?
That's a good question. That they have to put in the work. I've been at it for a while. I want to say almost 15 years. And in many entrepreneurs, in many successful people, there is like this period of darkness, this 10-year period that they put in the work, this 10-year thing where they get all those reps where they put it all in. And I went through that. Like, I was working out of the self-storage place. I was working for the Monterey Bay Aquarium, I would go to court in the morning and I'd do the contracts at night for the aquarium. And I was over in Heritage Harbor, like it wasn't actually at the aquarium, but I was doing a lot of legal work for them. In the afternoons, I was getting stuff done, but I was doing that just to get by. Like my cases weren't enough, and it was not particularly glamorous to go over to the aquarium. It was kind of cool, but it wasn't all that. And so it wasn't like I just jumped from, I came out of law school to like, oh, I read a book on scale your business, I'm going to start hiring. It's like, no, I had to learn it first before I could do it. So you have to put in that work, that period of growth, that period of building confidence, which is why it's so remarkable when there's a young person who achieves a great deal at an early age, because where do they get that experience? Right? Like I have the benefit of having done it for a while. So it's like when someone just has that genius early on, it's always so impressive.
Dangerous too.
Yeah, right. Because they could run afoul. They're not prudent.
A man of your status and a man of your success, how would you define success?
I think happiness. Happiness is the biggest thing for success, and what brings a person their own personal sense of fulfillment. And for me, it's not necessarily a dollar amount, because I know it's never going to be like, all right, it's a $10 million year.
Yeah.
Now I'm happy.
Yes.
Like when I get there, that's not going to be it. It's not going to, and I remember thinking at one point, like, well, I'll feel financially secure once I have this many dollars in the bank. And I blew right past it. Yeah. And I still don't feel like I'm financially secure. I still feel like
it's never enough.
You're right. I'm not even close to where I want to be. Like I thought I'd feel secure when I got there, but it's like, man, that was a while ago, and I still don't feel okay. Like I don't feel like I could just like let go. Yeah. Right. So I feel accomplished, like just feeling personally like that I'm in that grind, that I'm in the moment, that I'm moving in the right direction. That progress is the most important thing for me.
Well, my very last question, Chris. So out of all your experience when it comes to being a lawyer, as a man, as a high achiever, what's one of the biggest pieces of wisdom you want to pass to the audience?
There's really no shortcuts. You got to put in your work, and hard work pays off. Hard work pays off, and we wouldn't want to have it any other way.
Yes.
You don't want to be afraid of hard work. You don't want to live in a system where being lazy pays off. You want hard work to pay off, so lean into it and embrace working hard.
My man, I really appreciate you. Like I said, this is on a Sunday. It's a beautiful weekend, and you did not have to do this. And I really appreciate your time for doing this. Like, this is the first time we're meeting, like I said. And it's just so amazing doing this, man, because this increases my network. That just gets me introduced to another man out there who's a high achiever and is somebody that I can applaud from afar. I love what you're doing. You're being of service, and you're giving the community the right kind of service, man. And I know you don't applaud yourself very often, but I am applauding you from afar, my man. And I respect that what you do, and I respect the man that you are, because honestly, man, it's an aura. It's a very big aura thing when it comes to your day to day. You do a lot of things. A lot of people that I know that if I came across them, they would be tired. They would be miserable. You're not that at all. Tomorrow, you're going to go back to work. Tuesday, you're going to go back to work, etc. The days never change, and you show up regardless, my man. And I appreciate you, and I respect you for allowing me to do this. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you all for tuning in to today's episode. If you got a lot of value out of this, please do me a favor and support our channel by liking, commenting, and subscribing. Make sure to hit that follow button on Spotify to stay updated with our latest episodes. And if you are listening on Apple Podcasts, I would greatly appreciate it if you would leave a 5-star rating, followed by with a review. Again, thank you all for the support. Stay loving, stay hungry, and stay excellent.